There's a lot of talk right now about the topic of Iran. In fact, on this very channel, there are several videos that have recently become very controversial. It seems, especially just as the Western media tries to sell it to us, that what the United States is bringing to the region is not only peace, but also a regime that is radically different from the one that exists now, the regime of the Ayatollahs. It's true that he's not really admired by almost anyone, I would say, because he's a visibly aging leader with theocratic policies that don't convince the vast majority of the population. However, this is what we're facing. And now I'm going to tell you a little story and let you decide for yourselves to what extent it's better. What we have is either what's here now or what's still to come. And who would you personally choose? Because the truth is, who is calling for revolution in Iran right now, and who is asking others to take risks for him? The civilian population of that country is not exactly the most suitable person to govern, not at all. And it could be, and I think you'll have this pretty clear if you make it to the end of this report. It could be that for Iran, it might actually end up bringing a lot more problems than benefits. That being said, let's go straight to the figure of the man in question. His name is Reza Pahlavi Jr., and he is the Sexada, or as we would say in Spanish, the crown prince of the Shah, who, as I remind you, fled Iran in 1979. By then, by the time his father left the country, the son had already been living in the United States for about a year. That is to say, as of today, he has been living in the United States for 48 years, no more and no less. And in all this time, he has never returned to Iran, not even once. He learns about the country's life through television. His father took billions of dollars out of Iran so that his son would not have any kind of setbacks or financial needs. Reza now lives in the state of Maryland, and according to some media outlets, he likes to go out to dinner with his wife at a very specific cafe. And when he's asked about his profession, he says that he gives interviews about events in Iran. Damn, anyone would love to have a job that good. Since his father was overthrown, he has never officially worked anywhere. As far as we know right now, he's a 64-year-old young man, so to speak, who is still searching for similarities. His father and also expectation for Decca, it seems that he was disappointed. And it's like a sad Nadine in Yerevan, Framinga in Barsico. They were bought for $400,000 and that the prince had promised. Don't worry, dear friend, I'll pay your expenses. I'll take care of you better than even my father would. But then it turns out that His Highness changed his mind and took the money for himself. Of course, for these expenses and without having a clear profession, other than talking about Iran in different media and social networks, well, indeed, the 400,000 euros from the former bodyguard don't hurt. Just like any other little coin, it turns out that His Highness changed his mind. He kept the money. Ansari demanded the payment of the promised pension, but the United States court, well, they rejected it on the grounds that he was dismissed as an employee because his boss ran out of money. The judge stated that Pahlavi didn't know how to spend money. I mean, look, and I'm really emphasizing this in a special way, and, well, this appears in many sources. And he didn't understand financial payments. The prince cried with happiness in court when he heard the verdict. That same year, Pahlavi Jr., who is actually the crown prince, sued his advisor, Ansari, accusing him of embezzling $24 million. The prince's lawyer again stated that the poor thing handled money in a somewhat unusual way. He got confused with amounts, especially when they were very large, so it was very easy to deceive him. Ansari got angry and said that it was all Dell's fault. Pahlavi's wasteful soul, meaning that she was spending too much money, way beyond her means. To a careful eye, her father had left her a real fortune. However, this did not seem to convince the courts too much. In the end, Ansari, her former advisor, had to return 7.4 million. In short, in the environment of this golden boy, everyone who could was stealing because he had a lot of money. But apparently, and even his own lawyers say so, it's not like he has much sense or much knowledge when it comes to telling it. Then, in 2014, Pahlavi founded the television and radio station Pop Iran. 3 years later, he had to sell absolutely everything. A great business he should have done there, which was probably due to this decision to close. I venture to think that, judging by what it seems, the Crown Prince has little experience dealing with large sums of money. In October 2025, the Israeli newspaper Jared published an investigation. The Israeli government financed the promotion of Reza Pahlavi on social media in Farsi. The campaign failed. It increased his recognition, but sparked debate about his artificial popularity and diluted support in Iran. Reza is frequently confused. He swore that he had never received money from the American Secret Services, which doesn't seem entirely true, according to several sources. In fact, in 2017, he said he would take money for the revolution from anyone, even from Saudi Arabia and Israel, as long as it helped his own people in Iran. For 48 years in the United States, he has constantly declared that he is preparing a coup d'etat and that everyone should prepare for the imminent overthrow of the regime in Tehran. Since he has broad support among the military and even the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. Last year, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince became the only representative of the Iranian opposition who supported Israel's bombing of Iran, stating, mind you, they were bombing their own country. It's an opportunity to overthrow the regime. This is kind of like Maria Corina Machado, but the Iranian version. However, in 1983, the Israeli prime minister canceled the planning of a coup d'etat in Iran with the participation of Pahlavi. One of the reasons was his total inability to lead anything or anyone. And I'm not the one saying this, but apparently it's what Israel is protecting. Israel protecting Israel. And that Israel has the ability to protect Israel, and Israel protects Israel. Israel. And that the government of Israel does not have the ability to protect Israel. That the government has the ability of Israel. And that the government of Israel does not have the ability to protect Israel. That the government of Israel, the ability to protect Israel, and that the government of Israel does not have the ability to protect Israel. And a man who has never worked in his life, except for giving all kinds of interviews, talking crap about the current Iranian regime, and really not much else, constantly robbed by his own servants. Because according to United States courts and his own lawyers, he doesn't know how to handle large amounts of money. And also, apparently, according to what he himself once claimed, he is willing to serve anyone for money or wealth. In his words, as long as it supports the revolution in Iran and helps his country. On this matter, I would love to know your opinion about it. Which do you think will end up being the best fate for Iran? That is, should the Ayatollahs stay, or should this new political figure come in? Of course, we're talking about Ayatollah Ghani in this case in particular. Because it's also true that part of what I just told you might come out in many media outlets at some point, but it could also be, I don't know, exaggerated by their own opponents, of course, just sticking to the facts. The only fact that seems to me to be one of the main ones is that the person who intends to govern the country of Iran has been living outside of Iran for 48 years. Well, that says a lot about the success of such an operation from my point of view. The ones who are going to suffer no matter what happens whether those who are in power stay or new ones come, are going to be the civilian population. Much to my regret, because choosing between a leader who's almost 100 and another who's almost 70, well, it's not at any point about betting on any kind of modernity or any kind of defense of freedoms. I imagine that Pahlavi would undoubtedly try to have a bit of a free hand. We're not going to put it that way in order to actually provide young people with what they long for so much, but a person who isn't even able to control his own employees who have been working for him for years or even his own money. To what extent will he be able to improve the economic situation in Iran? Which, I remind you, is one of the main problems today, which is precisely why the unrest we're seeing on our screens began. The choice of Iranian society is very complex, of course. There are many Iranians who are now taking to the streets without even imagining what could come next. In the event that this regime change, which so many are longing for and many who are at home hoping for, actually happens, it's just to see if, with a little luck, things might start to go even a little bit better for them. Everything else is speculation. These are the facts. From here, I would love to know your opinion about it. For me, honestly, no. Who is the favorite? But at least the devil you know is already there and the good things are yet to be discovered. I highly doubt it will end up being better than what is currently governing Iran, regardless of the outcome. And let me add a personal note, I think Iran. If a regime change takes place, or if the regime stays in power, will it eventually end up sharing Syria's fate, especially considering the multinational origin of that state? Especially considering the fact that being Shia and living surrounded by Sunnis, they are really among enemies. Their situation at the international level is very complex, and their domestic political situation is even more complicated. To this, we must add the sanctions that haven't gone anywhere. On top of that, there are countless geopolitical issues that is beyond the others. But well, that's how things stand, and from here we'll see how events will eventually unfold.